Yeah, thank you so much for a very kind invitation and presentation. So I'm here and I speak on behalf of the European Academy of Cancer Sciences. And I will talk a little bit about the cancer strategy in Western Europe. How is research trends developing at the EU level? I think that is the most important thing. And I will go back to a short historical background, because the board of our academy asked us to give a description how started things and what is the background to the fact that the European Commission now has released a Measurement Council and a Europe's Beating Cancer Plan. And Julio Celis and myself have been involved in these types of discussions, strategies and projects since around, since 25 years ago. So we were asked to put it together. And it actually started in year 2000. The fragmentation of European research was highly visible at the EU level, and that was 25 years ago. The commissioner was Philippe Busquin. He established the European Research Area because he wanted to have the research better organized to get rid of the fragmentation. In 2002, with the support of the European Parliament, the European Cancer Research Area, and CEEAO, was created at the conference towards greater coherence in cancer research. And here is a very important message, we should think about it. The commissioner said, CEEAO will be what you make of it. So he asked for a bottom-up process from the cancer community and researchers to say what we want. The CEEAO concept meant basic science was considered essential for innovation, priming scientists to accept their societal responsibility, joining forces, building and organizing communities, and providing evidence-based advice to inform policy. It was more easy in the basic research area. So already in 2007, the European Research Council was established. And that has been a very successful thing. They brought in the basic researchers in one community, and then they put money on basic research. A very successful thing. It was more difficult if you go into the life sciences, where you have to involve also the healthcare, etc. So the Commissioner Busquin created a temporary working group in 2004 to discuss the fragmentation of cancer research that led to the funding of the Eurocam++ project, in which main European cancer research centers participated. And the outcome was that the main reasons for fragmentations were identified: increasing complexity of cancer biology, poorly developed translational cancer research, too few quality assured comprehensive cancer centers, lack of critical mass regarding patients, biological materials and technological resources, and suboptimal coordination of research. With this background, it was suggested to establish a European platform of CCCs, comprehensive cancer centers, and basic preclinical research centers to reach the critical mass for translational cancer research needed to develop personalized cancer medicine, which was at that time identified as a concept, and the person behind it was Lee Hood from Seattle, who talked about the P4 medicine. It was also suggested to create a virtual European Cancer Institute to share such a platform and the research, but it was changed to an initiative because the coordinator didn't like the word institute here, but it was needed a type of funding mechanism behind it. It was also decided to fund an ERANET, TransCan, for translational cancer research. The background was, of course, the concept of translational cancer research, which was identified in the last decades of 1900 as a consequence of the increasing complexity of cancer biology and the need to bridge to clinical research. The definition by Richard Klausner, NCI head at that time, was built on the gap between basic and clinical research. The European Plus proposed an extended definition, a coherent cancer research continuum. And we prepared this figure for that. The research starts with basic cancer biology, goes into preclinical research, further to clinical research of different types, before adoption in the healthcare system. In the healthcare system, it has to be evaluated by outcomes research linked to health economics and also long-term follow-up. This should be a coherent research continuum, and it is not. You have a number of gaps, everything, because the translational research requires multidisciplinary research collaboration, and that is still one of our problems. By definition, translational research is also bidirectional, as written down there. Of course, all therapeutic care modalities should be there. And it's obvious radiation therapy, medical oncology, etc. But also the different modalities for health-related quality of life research must be there, supportive care, psycho-oncology, rehabilitation, palliative care, and survivorship, etc. And that is important, and one of the important things now, because that has not been very visible earlier in the European Commission, but now they say cure, prolongation of life for patients, but also health-related quality of life. Fundamental for translational research is the CCC, the Comprehensive Cancer Center. It integrates cancer therapeutics care, health-dependent prevention, research, and education in one organization. Around 2005, the Organization of European Cancer Institute, UCI, and the German Cancer Aid developed an accreditation methodologies to quality assure European cancer centers. Together with Thomas Thurs, we were in the board of UCI. We developed an accreditation methodology. And today we have around 50 accredited CCCs in EU, so it's not so bad. A similar research continuum we have for prevention. We talked earlier this morning about prevention, but it starts with basic research. Cancer biology goes into preclinical research. For identification of a prevention context, intervention research before adoption of a prevention strategy by a public health organization, and then evaluated by outcomes research and health economics. So it's a similar thing here. And that should also cover the different prevention modalities and primary prevention, secondary prevention of different types. What was good with the European Plus project was that it gave rise to a paradigm shift in cancer research. Commitment to create a European platform of CCC and basic preclinical cancer research centers for translational cancer research was expressed in a declaration signed by 17 representatives of main European cancer research centers on November 6 in 2007. And when we had done it, someone asked, what should we call it? And Thomas Thurs said, we should call it the Stockholm Declaration, he said. Thomas Thurs was the director of Gustave Roussy in Paris. So it was. And that means that we have unified then the research area fairly well. So the researchers could speak with one voice, because that was a problem Commissioner Biscayne had in the year 2000. He said, and I heard him because we met a few and discussed with him, and he said that a problem we have here in the Commission, if we have a question and we go out to 5, 7 different cancer research organizations to have a response, we get 5 to 7 different responses. You have to shape up here to that so you can speak with one voice. And here we could speak with one voice. So that was the first important step. And in order to bridge then to cancer research policy, because next step in the hierarchy is the policy. A conference was organized at the UNESCO headquarters in Paris, turning the Stockholm Declaration in reality. And that was supported by the Danish Cancer Society, the Initiative for Science in Europe, and of UNESCO. And here the main challenge was that if you go to the European Commission, health is a responsibility for the member states in the EU, while research is a responsibility of the European Commission. Integration of both is necessary for translation and cancer research. And when that was still more visible, ECHO, the cancer organization, established a science policy committee to try to reach policymakers. But in 2009, the European Academy of Cancer Sciences was established. And this was a proposal by Julio Celis. And Alexander Lex Egermont was the first president in the Academy, and they wanted to have me as Secretary General, and I've been there up to the last year here for 14 years as the Secretary General, so I followed the development quite well. So the outcome of this was that the cancer community is now visible as a reliable partner for planning future research activity. That means that it's an ERA stakeholder. And here you see all the stakeholders, but we have also put in research community, scientific organizations as a stakeholder, which means that the scientific community has a direct impact in the discussion. From that followed that the European Commission decided to put money on a project which was named European Platform, a network of excellence, an EU project from 2011-2016. And the main aim was analysis of prerequisites for collaboration between cancer research centers. We had participations in terms of 23 European cancer centers and 5 cancer organizations. And NIO here in Hungary was one of the participants also in this project. Main outcomes were Cancer Core Europe, 7 centers for therapeutics research, a long-term consortium. Cancer Prevention Europe, another consortium of 10 centers for prevention research, and also a summer school for translational cancer research. So here we have the Cancer Core Europe with the 7 centers, Gustav Roussy, Cambridge, Karolinska, Netherlands Cancer Institute, Vall d'Hebron in Barcelona, German Cancer Research Center in Heidelberg, and the Istituto Nazionale di Tumori in Milan. And this consortium is now under good development. And what they do is to work together to share resources, technological resources and patients. And they build quality assurance and sharing of data from clinical trials. Molecular tumor boards they have together for certification of patients for clinical trials. They have integrated diagnostic procedures, including imaging, expansion of next generation clinical trials to reach the necessary critical mass, both for anti-cancer agents and immunotherapy. And of course, also education, training, legal and ethical issues are also in the focus. So this is, I think, the best example we have on a consortium that is sustainable, and it's built also on a legal structure in Europe. That's quite interesting. In 2015, we had Commissioner Carlos Moedas. He said, the EU should work for open innovation, open science, and open to the world. And he put a committee, a research, innovation, and science experts high-level group together, the RISE high-level group, to get advice on evidence and policies. And 2 years later, then the LAME group suggested that the EU research and innovation programs should be mission-oriented. And then the concept mission-oriented cancer research came on the table. Julio Celius at that time was a member of the RISE high-level group, and he was the only representative of life sciences research. And he proposed a mission on cancer based on the outcomes of the European Platform project. And then we have several conferences on that. We had a conference in 2018 with a commissioner there, and commissioner said, I want to move on for a mission of cancer. There was some discussion with the pediatric oncologists who suggested that one should start with the pediatric oncology, then in the future we can bring in all cancer. But we had a meeting together with the Pontifical Academy of Sciences in 2018 and discussed the whole background. And after that, the Competitiveness Council in February 2019 approved a mission on all cancer in addition for other areas of research. A mission board was established, and in the trio presidency, the 2019 with Germany, Portugal, and Slovenia, a declaration, Europe United Against Cancer, was published and disseminated. And in the year 2020 and 21, the Europe's Beating Cancer Plan and the Mission of Cancer were launched. So this was an additional way to bring the expertise in research together. And here, this is an example of 4 publications, and the NIU is participating in these publications as well, where we have said we agree upon the development of this type, and these were advice to the European Commission. So the 2 initiatives, the Cancer Mission and Europe's Beating Cancer Plan, are unique. The mission, fundamental for cancer, for translational cancer research in the way we have defined it. This is accepted by the Commission. The Europe's Beating Cancer Plan to provide the fundamental infrastructure for translational research. And we said in the Academy we should have at least one CCC in each country in EU. And in larger country, we should have one per 4 to 5 million inhabitants. Now the Commission says that we work, and they have put money, I will come back to that, to establish more than 100 centers in EU. So that by that, the goal will be reached, twice as many as we have today. So that was good. And the European Academy of Cancer Sciences is now following the implementation that started in 2021. We had one conference in Heidelberg, reported in 23, and another one in the Vatican, reported in 24. And we stress again the importance to cover the complete translational research continuum. But we also go into the importance to organize things in a way that we both can come around inequalities and at the same time increase innovations. I will bring in a few important things we are working with now, which hopefully will have a positive effect in the future. Early translational research means bridging the gaps, basic preclinical and early clinical research. This is important because you have a very, very quick development and production of innovations in the basic research. It's increasing over time. Then there are more innovation than possible to test in the clinical research. The clinical research is time and resource consuming. So we have discussed the necessity to have more integration between basic preclinical researchers and clinical researchers for prioritization, what is good for patients and the healthcare systems. And doing that, we see also that the preclinical research should be better supported economically and be more visible. So that is one thing. Another thing which is a little bit problematic because development moves on very quick, and that is the clinical trials. And the clinical trials, we need more academically driven clinical trials. We say it again, and all agree upon it, because most clinical trials are driven by the pharma industry. So we need the academically driven clinical trials. And here we have a lot of problems to sort out, but that is ongoing. The early clinical trials require a strong infrastructure support. The joint molecular tumor boards are necessary for the next generation clinical trials, where we have the molecular classification of tumors at present based on mutational analysis, but in future will be based on biological characteristics of the tumors. But here we see that we have more and more possibility to stratify the patients, not only after mutation. Now the proteomics is in place and people move in that direction. Structuring clinical trials also towards implementation into the healthcare, to have practice changing clinical trials. And that has been forgotten because the industry is not very much interested in that. They want to have the clinical trials to put the new drugs on market. So this needs also to be analyzed more in detail. And there I come back all the time to the critical mass of patients and technological resources, because this is the basic problem, and it will increase, and it will increase in the future the more we know about it. And here we have also the outcomes and health economics research for development of evidence-based cancer medicine and cost effectiveness. And I will not go into details here. I will just say that clinical efficacy is the outcome of clinical trials. What is needed for the healthcare is clinical effectiveness, outcomes of treatments of total patients' populations, because this is what we need also for assessment of cost effectiveness, which is a big question for the cancer activities. So outcomes research needed for both specific innovations, but also for the cancer therapeutics care as a whole. And for specific innovation, we see nothing of this today. So this is a very important thing the Academy will work still more on. So the conclusion is that relevant assessment of cost effectiveness is at present a missing element, a necessity for prioritization and affordability by the healthcare. Structuring the cancer therapeutics care and research at the national level, it must start there before you go into the international level. One CCC in each member state, in large countries, 1 per 45 million inhabitants, I said so. The important thing here is also to identify an outreach area for each CCC with the responsibility to quality assure the healthcare, but also involve patients in clinical research. If you go to countries where you have good number of CCC, take Germany, about 20% of the patients are handled by the CCC. 80% outside. And if you would like to reach the patients, you need to have this strict definition that the CCC will have this responsibility. Small countries has a problem, they say, and we say that there is possible to bridge to CCCs in a neighboring country. The CCC provides the advanced infrastructure for stratification of patients. Patients can then be treated where they live, and patient information is shared. Norway is the most interesting example, and you can look at it. They stratify and analyze the tumors for the whole Norway in Oslo. And then they have joint tumor boards with all clinics once a week in Norway. And they take a mutual decision how to treat. The patients are diagnosed in Oslo, but they are treated where they are living. Then they can use the outcomes together. So the outcomes of national structuring means that inequalities are mitigated and innovation is increased. I think that is one of the concepts we are working very much with. I said that we had two international collaborations with Cancer Cure Europe and Cancer Prevention Europe, but we clearly say that we need more of them. We need for pediatric oncology, geriatric oncology, precision surgical treatment, radiation therapy, immune oncology, health-related quality of life research, outcomes research, etc., etc. I discussed yesterday with a program on oncobiomics in Europe, and they said they want to go for oncobiomics program by linking comprehensive cancer centers in the future. I would just mention the CRANE project, which is the project working with the expansion of CCCs to all member states from 50 to 100. And now there is a question, how should quality assurance of CCCs and designations of CCCs of excellence, how should that be developed? That is an open question, but from ESS we think we know how to do it. Governance is another important question for CCCs, because in many centers the academic part is owned by the state, while the healthcare is by regional organizations. So national structuring and translational research is important. I said that before. In international collaboration between centers, educational support for this is also of extreme importance, and governance of multiple networks of these between these 100 centers would be also a critical question. A still more critical question, the economic support for sustainability. So here the leading group for this project have asked the European Academy of Cancer Sciences to be helpful with advice. We have had 3 discussions so far, and we will continue and be helpful to sort out the question, because there are some controversies in there. Some countries want to do that, another thing, some organizations that, and some other things. The good thing with ESS is that it's completely independent. I will mention the affordability problem, because we see it's a global problem all over the world. No one has the money, and we said it also when we discussed Georgia a little bit. It's a problem. Here we have an analysis of costs in Europe, 2008 to 2018, made by Institute of Health Economics. If we just look at direct healthcare costs but not include anti-cancer agents, it increased from 68 to 71 billion. That is an increase of 4.4%, and that is not very much. Especially if you look that during that time you increased the number of patients with 16%. So that means in practice a decrease of money for the traditional work. If you then extract the cost for anti-cancer agents, they increased from 10 to 32 billion, 220% during that time. And then a person involved in this work made a preliminary analysis of the Swedish situation, and he saw from 18 to 22, it increased to 10 billion Swedish crowns. That was another doubling of the cost for anti-cancer agents. It's important to remember that, and now they will prepare for an update of these figures. So a problem for development of evidence-based cancer medicine. We have always talked about that we need the evidence-based medicine for handling patients. Here we have a problem with the new anti-cancer agents because they are accepted by a fast track. And I calculated the applications and approval at the EMA 2000 to 2022, 61 new anti-cancer agents. And the number per year increased. The first period, 4.6 per year. The last years, more than 11 per year. And it's increasing all over the time. And there are enormous possibilities from the basic research to identify new targets for therapy. And now they move very much also into proteomics, as I said. So this is a very big problem. And this is linked to another problem. The EU Cancer Research Fund is not in harmony with the goals of the mission of cancer. And that was analyzed in 2005, 2015. In 2005, 53%, 2.2 billion, of the European Cancer Research budget came from the pharma industry. 24%, 1 billion from public funding. If we then went to 2015, 74 to 80%, depending upon how you calculate it and how reliable figures are from the pharma industry. That means 8.5 to 13.5 billion came from the pharma industry. 9 to 13%, 1.5 billion from public funding. So here we have a very, very important problem, which is difficult to touch, and people are not very interested in this area. But I can tell you that Bob Bass from MD Anderson, almost 15 years ago, said to me, he was vice president at MD Anderson in Houston. He said, you have to understand, he said, that our most difficult problem is the fact that NCI in US put around $5 billion annual on research. The pharma industry, 20 to 25 billion. So the pharma industry sets the agenda. We had a conference in 2008, and Jeffrey Sachs from the Columbia University was there. He gave a talk, and he said, yeah, you are working with the development of European research. You have to consider this, that the pharma industry increases all the time, the funding of the research. And that means those who put the money there, they also have a say on how the money should be used. So we ask to have the analysis of the present situation. We are approaching the European Commission about it, and the Commission is not completely convenient with it. But we will introduce more questions. And now we have a very good person in the Commission who has got the mission to analyze the outcomes of the present money in the Horizon Europe, and who will also chair a committee to decide about future allocation of money. And he is aware of this problem, and he comes also to our academy for discussions. So we have to solve this important problem. More money from public funding, instead of putting money into the healthcare for treatments which are not evidence-based. That is our message. So again, thank you. Together we can make a difference, we say, and what we have seen over the last 20 years is a bottom-up and a top-down, a bottom-up and a top-down process, and that is what will be needed also to build your consortium or academy sustainable over time. Thank you.